Hello and welcome along to another episode of this FM19 story, The Head Coach with me, Daniel. It's season 12, episode 3, and today, after a frustrating start to the league season with our new club Napoli, we move into the first game of the Champions League group stage. A pretty friendly group at that we've been given, as we go away to Benfica in arguably our toughest test of the group. First of all though, if you're not quite sure why we're at Napoli, it's our third episode at the new club, so do go back and check out the first two of this season, where we got our big move, met the squad, and introduced all the signings our director of football made. I'll put a link in the eye above to that, but you can see we've got a few players unavailable today. John Stones and Lucas unregistered for the Champions League, due to the fact we've got so few homegrown players. One of our other young attacking midfielders is out with a hip injury, so he's not going to be available either, but thankfully today's not the be-all and end-all, as the Champions League group we've been given is absolutely brilliant. PSV were the first seeds in the group, we got the weakest of the 8 sides that we could have. We then got Benfica in pot 3, probably a slightly tougher one than we would have liked, but Red Star coming through in pot 4. If we can't get 2 or 3 home wins in this group, we don't deserve to be in Europe after Christmas. But we've got to focus on the few games since the last episode. You were obviously with me for that comfortable 3-0 win at home to Chievo, and we matched that again away to Fiorentina. Claudio Gomez getting his first goal for the club, before Ismail Assar and Ivan Chan, the fullback, adding to the score sheet towards the end of the game. We continued our brilliant defensive record as we drew 0-0 at home to Sampdoria, a really frustrating one as we absolutely dominated, but just didn't really look like scoring in the end. But then in the last game, you see, we had a really disappointing 1-1 draw, a 5th minute goal in injury time from Mokia, levelling it out after we got an 89th minute what we thought was winner through Diogo late, but it wasn't enough in the end, and unfortunately it was just a draw. So we've already dropped 4 points, we're falling away from the leaders, we're picking up knocks all over the place, we've had so many different little injuries, and now we go into the Champions League with a really narrow squad and missing out on some key players in key areas. Thankfully most of them are back today, but they're not able to play 2 games in a week at the moment, so it is leaving us a little bit tight in the league, which it already looks like we're not going to have a chance in. So the biggest priority becomes getting into the top 3, making sure we're in the Champions League next year, trying to compete in the domestic cup, and then hoping that next year we can make a bigger push for it. Juventus have been the dominant side, with Inter just breaking that on one occasion. Inter are up there on 12 points, Juventus on 10, and we've not played any of the big sides yet, but we're all the way down on 8 points. So it doesn't look like we're going to be the most consistent of sides. We are a little bit short in attack if Gerardo doesn't score goals, so I'm not quite sure what we're going to do about that, as our director of football again has a wage budget remaining, but nothing really to spend on transfers. One of the other slight issues is the dynamic screen. Although the lads have been playing in this formation for a while now, the 4 games they've played off camera, they've not been able to get their cohesion together. It's still developed as good, but there are a few players who aren't familiar in the tactic, and they're not really developing at the speed we would like, so hopefully they'll start gelling soon. Again, we've got the same problem in the dressing room. We've got loads of different personalities hashed together, as the director of football just basically signed anyone he could on loan, especially from the big clubs who would give us a wage break. We've got loads that haven't formed meaningful relationships, as you'd expect when most of them have only been here 4 weeks, and we've got 3 players that are particularly unhappy, including Thiago Gaucho, who should be the best player at the club on paper. He's really underperforming so far this year, as he doesn't look like he wants to be here, and there's 4 players against him where he keeps complaining, and they're not going to be forming good relationships with him as a result. If we go to the top influences, Dombello, who's one of the other unhappy players, he's a team leader up there at the moment. Diogo Leighton, John Stones are up there too, but a lot of the influential players are the unhappy ones. Dombele is a team leader, and Gaucho is a highly influential man. So it's not all been disastrous. We really are good defensively, and we look solid as our shape would suggest. As a reminder of the tactic, we're playing a slightly more defensive version of what we had at Newcastle, mainly because we don't have top number 10s, and we've also had lots of injuries in the middle, and Dombele's still unhappy at the moment. I couldn't put 2 unhappy central midfielders together, so we're sticking with the other players in the holding role for now, and that loan signing of La Rocca and Claudio Gomez have really thrown us and changed our plan shape. But let's get into this Champions League game today. We're one of the 2 early kickoffs across the groups, the other one being Real Madrid against Juventus, so I can't imagine many people will be watching us on TV. Especially the neutrals will all be watching the other game, so unfortunately it looks like it's going to be a low audience for this one. You can see Benfica are slight favourites at home. They've got a couple of injuries as well, but they're a really good side in Portugal. If we go and take a look at them actually to see how they've been doing, they're second in the Portuguese league at the the moment. They won the title last year. The 2 years before that they were second, although they hadn't won a title since 16-17, so Porto have certainly been the dominant side there, but they did regain their control last season, and that means they're going to be a difficult test today. We're just going to look at their key player Axel Vasquez to see how good he really is. He's worth £22.5 million, and he's only on 34 grand a week, a young Mexican international who's brilliant mentally and physically, but perhaps not the best technically. We'll also go and have a look at the hot prospect Andre, just to see how good he is. He's a very decent young goalkeeper, but doesn't look to be anything special again. So they're a side on paper we should be beating. They do have players worth a little bit more as well, but it's going to be tough to see if we can pull that off today, as we've really struggled for goals in the last couple of games. Confidence is starting to fall through the floor, and it's going to be difficult to pick that back up. You can see, as well as the 3 players we mentioned that were unavailable today, we've also got Thiago Gaucho. He's tired and he's unhappy anyway. He's been performing poorly, so it's not such a loss. Claudio Gomez, though, is a bit of a loss. He's out tired too, having come off with a knock later in the weekend's game. But the starting 11 we've got available for this one, we have rotated a little bit. Lima's coming for Chan at right back, just to give us that little bit of extra experience. And in central midfield, it's obviously been all changed from the last episode, as we're missing a couple of key players today. So we've got Leonardo in goal as the sweeper keeper, Lima and Werner the fullbacks, Leighton Diaz in the middle. We're still protecting Pap for now, but it won't be long before he breaks into the first team, as he's one of the best young centre-halves in the world. We've got La Rocca and Saavedra in the holding role. Saavedra obviously the club captain last season. Hopefully he'll be a good influence on the players on the pitch, just to try and motivate them and keep the spirits high. Cortinovos is in central midfield, Brass and Sarr on the wings, and then Gerardo's up front. He's gone a couple without a goal, so hopefully he'll be able to rectify that today. Let's go and get into the match and see if we can do it in the Champions League as well. We've got the positive mentality at the moment. We may have to drop it when we get into the match. It's a 4-2-3-1 for Benfica, a little bit more attacking than us. They've got Salnikov in attacking midfield, a really good goalkeeper as well, and a couple of experienced players at the back, which is going to make it a little bit difficult for us. Our new assistant manager Zolt Low recommended to encourage the lads. We've done that and none of them are particularly motivated, so it could be interesting to see how some of these react. We've got a question as to why Thiago Gaucho isn't starting, and I'm not sure what reason to give them, to be honest. We're just not going to talk about it. It makes it a bit easier and avoids any potential controversial headlines. It's La Rocca in the middle as we get it from the kickoff. Can we create a chance early on? I'd imagine the highlight will end as that's claimed over the top. No one's going to get there, and it's with Ferro, the Benfica centre-half. He gets it wide to the right back, and we haven't seen the end of the highlight for some reason. Normally when these go on from the centre kick, it does mean they're going to lead to a goal or good chance, and it's Benfica coming forward on the right hand side now, so I'm a little bit concerned by that prospect. We've won it back with Saavedra though, and Sarr gets it back into midfield. Sarr again beats the fullback, cuts inside and shoot, and we have scored in the first minute. What a goal from Ismaila Sarr, cutting inside the inside forward, did his role perfectly there, a brilliant finish from 20 yards, beat the keeper into the top corner. A perfect start to our Champions League campaign in what is arguably going to be our toughest match. 8 minutes gone, we lead 1-0 as La Rocca heads away a long throw from Benfica. It's back to the right back Montiel, and he's got a chance to get it forward to the winger. They deliver with 4 in there, Vasquez loses out, and he's going to be cleared to Edu Vieira. He finds Luiz and into Salnikov. He shoots straight at Leonardo, and he comfortably gathers that. It remains 1-0 after 10 minutes. It's a throw on the left for Benfica. We're still seeing plenty of attacks for the home side. They look like they're causing a little bit of danger, but have not been able to get a goal yet. Salnikov may change that now. He finds Andre Luiz, hits the post and Leonardo brings it down. It's easily held at the second attempt. 15 minutes gone. We continue to hold on to our lead, but Benfica have certainly been the better side. We'll drop to a balanced mentality and hope that'll make a difference for the rest of the half. We've got a corner with Brass into the right hand side. Into the middle, Gerardo volleys it in. The centre-half lost it in the air. Andre Luiz should have got that away, but in the end he got nothing on it at all, and it slammed into the back of the net. Brilliant finish by Gerardo. A couple of games without a goal, but that's the panic over as he gets back on the score sheet. It's Lima at right back with a throw into midfield. Comes back to him again and now La Rocca. Can we build from the back, as there's no real pressure on us to go forward? We've dropped to that balanced mentality, and we've just got to see out the game nicely. Gerardo's lost it to Andre Luiz though. Here's Edu Vieira. In behind behind to Vasquez, the danger man. We highlighted him pre-match. Lima wins it back and nearly scores an own goal with a back pass. Leonardo just gets back into position to clear it. Lay gets it into La Rocca, and now Saavedra can start another counter. Into Sarr, but it's undercooked, and it's won back by the right winger for Benfica. Into Marin and now Edu Vieira. Two men running off him, doesn't need them. Beats the defender and shoots, but it's straight into the arms of Leonardo, as Juventus take the lead in Madrid as well. A really good night so far for the Italian side, and hopefully that will continue for both. It's Brass on the right hand side to La Rocca. He loses out and is cleared away, but only back to Saavedra in midfield. He finds Cortinovos, out wide to Lima again, tries to deliver but is cleared by Marin, and up to halfway with the danger man Vasquez. He beats two but he's forced backwards. Not really many up in support for Benfica, and it looks like we're going to hold on to half time comfortably, though I've said that before and been proven wrong. Here's Vasquez again 25 yards out, Salnikov out to the right winger, cuts inside and shoots, but is comfortably over the bar. We can probably deal with chances like that all day, although Benfica are coming forward immediately after. Lima at right back to Diogo Brass, and we haven't really got a breath as we continue to see highlights. La Rocca out to Gerardo on the right hand side. Two men running off him, one of them Sarr on the left, beats his man easily, and he was in 1-on-1, but it was an awful finish, straight into the arms of the keeper. It barely bobbled off the floor. A long kick forward by the number one for Benfica, but on a stroke of half time, we're going to lead 2-0 at the break. A brilliant first half performance, and we seem to be getting back on track. Let's go and talk to the lads to tell them how we feel about that. I'm really delighted with the performance. We're going to tell them it was excellent. Our assistant manager's in complete agreement, and hopefully in the second half the lads will be just as good and we'll be able to make this win very convincing. It's Salnikov in midfield for Benfica as they continue straight from the kickoff. Out to Escobar, the left back. He finds Marin, and hopefully this highlight won't be as long. It's won back by Diogo Brass, and it might be longer because we could score again. Gerardo on the edge of the box, and it's just wide of the post. The two men we saw on camera in the first game, Brass and Gerardo, really starting to cause trouble for them again. A brilliant start to this half too, and hopefully we'll continue to lead 2-0. 20 minutes to go, it's a corner from Benfica. We didn't see any highlights for 15 minutes, and then what has Vernier done there, the left back? Vasquez headed it from the corner, it was going wide of the post, and he decided to stand on the line and head it in. Absolutely awful from the left back. We're going to take him off in a minute. We mentioned when we signed Aranya, the director of football brought him in and we said he's a good experienced option. We should probably play him in the Champions League, and we'll learn that lesson from today as Vernier scores an own goal. So it will be Aranya in the rest of this competition as Vieira crosses to the right winger, Vasquez on the rebound, a brilliant save, and they're offside from the third one. 15 minutes to go, let's make some changes. Vernier's going to be replaced by Aranya, and that's going to be the case for the rest of this season. We've got a nervous central midfielder, so Dombele will come on for him. I think he's pretty good in the box-to-box role, so we're just going to leave him in that one for now. The only other real option is Ivan Chan. He's going to come on for Conrad Lima, mainly because he's in an aggressive mood, and I don't want to see any red cards late on. We'd love to take off La Rocca, who's absolutely knackered, or Saavedra, who's back from injury, but unfortunately we don't have any holding role options due to the injuries to the first two players. Marin's got it in the middle for Benfica. They're really starting to dominate this game, and I think if we see out this highlight we will go a bit more defensive and try and produce a classic away performance in Europe. It's Edu Vieira back to Marin though, and we might not get that opportunity if they score from this one. Montiel on the right, it deflects into the winger, and it's going to be 2-2. What a way to throw it away in the second half. And for the first time this season we've looked poor at the back and really struggled defensively. We're going to ask the lads to show some passion as this second half has been absolutely woeful, and we're going to go back to a positive mentality as we really want to try and win the game. It wouldn't be a disaster to draw away in this one or away to PSV in truth, but we don't want to leave ourselves too much to do just in case we slip up at home. We are an inconsistent side, we've seen that already in the league, and that's an absolutely awful tackle. Probably going to be a red card for Saavedra. At least deserves a yellow because he certainly wasn't going for the ball, but it doesn't look like he's been given anything against him, and Diogo late clears the throw in. It's going to be another attack for Benfica. Andre Luiz inside to Marin, and it looks like they're absolutely dominant now. It's going to be difficult to hold them off. Vasquez back to Andre Luiz. It's all for the home side at the moment. We can't keep them out of our half, and we can't get a foot on the ball either. It's up front to Vasquez. He continues to have danger moments in this game, and it's out to Montiel on the right. They've always always got three men in the middle of the box. Marin continues, it's been a really long highlight, and we already know what that's going to mean. It's into the back post, and there it is, but a brilliant save from Leonardo. He dives down to his right and holds it as well, and it's just a minute plus stoppage time to go. Can we see it out and get a draw after what looked like it was going to be a comfortable win? Juventus are still doing their bit of Real Madrid. They're flying the Italian flag proud, whereas we're really letting the side down here with an awful second half performance. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe it's just fatigue in some of these legs, but it looks like we haven't got too many options in midfield. If we get one or two injuries, we're down to the bare bones. Edu Vieira's into the box, completely unopposed as he goes through one-on-one, but a brilliant save from Leonardo to tip it over, and he's almost now our man of the match. It's Vieira with the in-swinging corner, just 10 seconds of stoppage time to go. It's cleared away to the winger who's already got one, and it's back to Marin at the edge of the box. He switches it to Montiel, one last chance for them to deliver, but it's headed away and the final whistle goes. A 2-2 draw on our first Champions League night. A really poor performance in the second. After dominating the first half convincingly, it looked like it was going to be an easy win, but in the end the lads have disappointed again. We throw away games late on so often, and it's going to take a while to get our stamp on this side. I suppose we've been used to a Newcastle side for the last couple of years that know exactly what we expect from them, and they've been able to deliver it regularly, above their expected performance levels and sometimes beyond their talent. They've really done a good job, whereas these lads are going to take a while to settle in. We're going to tell the lads it was unlucky, just because our assistant recommends it, but they're not really reacting to anything at the moment. They don't seem convinced by us at all. We've got a much easier game against Brescia at the weekend. They're 17th in Serie A at the moment, just 1 point off their first 4 games, and it'd be a disaster if we didn't get a win out of that one. Ismail Assar scored a brilliant goal in the first minute. Gerardo got a good one as well, before that ridiculous Vernier own goal, and to poor defending to allow the equaliser. We get 800 grand for a draw. Sar's going to get a little bit of praise as well. He was superb in front of goal. His first minute finish was absolutely excellent. We'll go and have a look at the schedule in a minute to see when we'll next be back, but I just want to finish on the finances screen to show you what a mess this club's in at the moment. It's losing money every month. We're getting 55,000 for our home games, but we've only got about 7,000 season ticket holders, so you never get that big influx at the start of the year, a bit like you do with most English sides. We're now 60 million in debt, which is worse than when we started, despite barely spending a penny and making a profit in the transfer window. Our director of football's done his bit, but unfortunately it hasn't shown in the bank balance. There's some really crooked stuff going on at this club, as I'm not quite sure where all the money's going. The TV revenue almost matches the wages, so where's the rest of it disappearing? You can see on the bottom right there, we're losing a lot of money in loan repayments, nearly $500,000 a month, and not far off the same amount in tax, with bonuses being particularly high as well. It's one of the pitfalls in these sort of series. If your director of football negotiates your contracts, as we've got in this one for both staff and players, they do sometimes end up with ridiculous bonuses. Sometimes you end up playing clubs for silly clauses, like 20 appearances for a player you know will be first choice, and then the same again where they put things in place like winning the domestic cup or qualifying for the Champions League, and all of the players end up getting loads of money, even though they've just done the job they're paid for. So a little bit of a frustration in a director of football challenge, but it's nothing we haven't seen before, and it's certainly not as bad as when we were at Hemel Hempstead. We've always got to remember that wherever we are. The board are far more realistic than the one we had at Dungannon too, so they're not expecting anything special in the first year. They just want us to get into the top 3 and let us build again the season after. If there's not much money in the tank, then we'll move on again. We've still got our big reputation. That's not going to go down anytime soon, as we won the Premier League and that's the biggest domestic trophy in the world. And then last but not least, let's finish on that schedule. We want to have a look for a big game when we might be back, and I can already see the one I'm going to go for. The first game in November away to Inter Milan, the only side that have broken Juventus' dominance in the last 5 years. We'll be looking to replicate that in the next couple, but we've got to get past Inter first, who sit 4 points clear of us in the league as it stands. So that will be the one we're next back for. At that stage we'll be halfway through the Champions League campaign, and we'll have played another 6 games in the league, so we'll really get a clear picture for where we're going to be. And a month after that we've got Juventus at home as well, so there's certainly going to be plenty of big games coming up, and I hope you'll come and join me for those ones. We're competing at the top of another domestic league in another country in Europe, so I hope you'll enjoy as we continue the action from our new club and try to make our way up the Serie A table, and hopefully we'll be able to compete with these big boys and get ourselves another big European title soon. But if you did enjoy this episode and our first Champions League game at Napoli, please do put a thumbs up on the video, Let me know what you think of the new club. Are there any players you're starting to fall for already? Who do you think's going to be the superstar here? Or are we going to need further improvements before we succeed? As you've seen, it's not going to be done by big transfers, as there's no money left in the tank. The 100 million that was wasted pre-season on 3 players before we even came here has really come back to haunt us now, with 35 million signings sitting on the bench. Let me know if you think we'll get through in the Champions League based on that one. I'm a bit worried as PSV were the first seeds that maybe they're a little bit better than they are in real life and we're underestimating them slightly. And who knows what will happen away to Red Star. That's a tough game and it's caught a few sides out before. Hopefully we won't be the next one in that line. Subscribe to the channel for daily FM19 content from 2 long-term stories. This one, the head coach, and then our One Club series, part of the furniture with Torquay United, where we're trying to take them to the top of English and European football. There's also 3 episodes a week from Cricket 19, the official game of the Ashes. We've got an Ashes test playthrough at the moment before we start our long-term career in a couple of weeks' time. And then there's weekly content from Snooker 19. That's a career mode series every Friday at 4:30. So if you are a fan of other sports games, please do go and check those series out. But a massive thanks for watching and your continued support with the series. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you next time for a big top of the table clash as we go away to Inter Milan, trying to make our mark on Italian football.